the other side of it is, listen, whether people want to admit it or not, he has an unfortunate face. You know, it's like there is something about an aesthetic that affects us, right? It's like there's a such thing as a punchable face. He has a punchable face, and it's not his fault. But it's the face. He has the face of a person that you just like. If you ain't know nothing about him, you just saw their face, you're like, I don't like this person. That's a good news. Welcome back, BS with Brian Simpson. Welcome to the winter vortex in Austin, Texas. Apparently, don't mess with Texas doesn't include the weather. You know, once this city hit 35 degrees, it's a wrap. Like, I can't believe how ill prepared Austin, Texas is for winter. You know, it's like half the businesses shut down yesterday. Now, you know, power is out, trees are down, half the road, the bridge is closed. It's like, it's not. There's no snow on the ground. Everyone, there's no snow on the ground. It's what temperature is it? It's goddamn. It's 31 degrees outside, which is cold. You know, that's not warm, but that's like you know, because they were saying last night. We got an email from our landlord that's like, don't forget to drip the pipes. And I was like, what is that? What does that even mean? So the pipes don't freeze? I've never been somewhere like, bro, last time I was in Billings, Montana. It was -6 degrees. Nobody was dripping the pipes. It was like I think they just got pipes that can handle winter. This is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like snow, they closed schools yesterday because of freezing drizzle. They closed the schools. Yeah. So
that was supposed to be cowboy country.
I guess, but it's frustrating. I mean, if it drops to 0, we might have to call the National Guard out this motherfucker. I don't know. Because they are not ready. They're just not ready. I mean, you know what it is? It's a weird it's really wearing its like mixed like blue city and a red state identity, because it's like half the city is half the people are like it's the apocalypse. And the other half of the people are just business as usual. It's like they have a truck with, you know, they have all the tools. You know, like when they announced that this was coming, you know, a few days ago, you know, it was like I went to the mall or whatever. I went to try to go to Bed Bath & Beyond. It was closed due to inclement weather. Right next to it, Best Buy is open. PetSmart is open. You know, the 24-hour fitness is closed. You know, it's like half the people just is like, no, we can't buy all the bread, batten the hatches. And then half the people are like, what's the problem? You know, regular people are like, what? It's just cold. And then it's not even that cold. I don't know. I just, anyway, it's frustrating.
Well, isn't the issue that it's not so much that everything freezes up necessarily, it's just that as soon as it gets below a certain degree, everybody turns on their heating, right? And then that overloads the grid system.
No, I think,
right?
I mean, and this is just me assuming, but I think what's happening is that the freezing rain is breaking tree branches.
Oh.
And this is, I guess it's just something I never paid attention to when I first got here, but a lot of the power lines are like run through trees, which is crazy, right? Like a lot of the power lines are like going through a tree. And so anyway, what's happening is, you know, the ice is building up on these branches. It gets too heavy and the branches fall and they break the power line. So power is down on half of the city. I guess our power just blinked out for a second, but yeah, there's branches down all over the place. You know, some people's cars got real fucked up. I mean, obviously. and I don't know how the city could prepare for that, but I know I've never seen that anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anywhere else I've lived where we get regular winter weather. You know, my whole life growing up on the East Coast, I can't ever remember it getting so cold that tree branches started falling all over the place.
Yeah, and also a lot of places that are weatherized because it does actually get cold. You know, you bury the lines underground, or you have other methods of preventing them from being destroyed by inclement weather.
Yeah, it getting cold shouldn't be. And you know, and some people try to forgive and go, well, this is Texas. This is new to Texas. It's like, okay, yeah, but this is the third year in a row.
Right.
Why you not ready?
Right.
You know what I mean? It would be like, imagine if somebody crashed into the World Trade Center in 2002 and 2003. You know, it's like, why aren't you ready?
And in 2004, they're just like, look, there's nothing we can do.
Right. I mean, guys, we new to this. It's like, no, like at least have a reaction. Like, it was almost like it happened 2 years ago, and it fucked Texas up. And then it happened the next year, and it fucked Texas up. And now this third year, they're like, what is like, well, there's no way it's going to happen 3 years in a row. It's like, no, this is the new normal. It's gonna get cold here now. You know, people are like, it don't usually get cold in Texas. That's the end of this. It's gonna get cold here every year. It's gonna get worse and worse and worse. This climate change is happening. The climate is changing. You know, it's just that simple. You know, you can sit around and debate about, you know, whether or not it's human for whatever. You know, but you got to get ready for it to be cold. The city should have salt. The roads are not salted, by the way. You know, so it's like black ice in some spots because, you know, it's right at that temperature where it's the most dangerous. You know,
right.
So it's like, and they're just completely not ready.
It's funny that there's always a liminal spot where it's almost like a spike where danger goes up before it goes back down, right? It's like driving at dusk is more dangerous than driving in like pitch black dark. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Or like the most dangerous part of driving like on the highway is right when it starts raining and right when it stops raining.
Yeah, and it's when you think you're the most safe.
Yeah, you think you're the most safe. Yeah.
And it's the most dangerous when it starts raining because of all the oil on the highway, you know, because oil and water don't mix. So the oil rises up when it first starts raining, and it hasn't been raining enough to wash it away. So it's just sitting on the surface of the road, making it slick. And so you'll just lose control real quick, or, you know, you'll just slide for a second, or one of your tires will slide. You know, that kind of shit.
It's also like when I lived in New York, when it would freeze, it's like when it's right at that level where it's cold enough to freeze on the ground, when you step on it, because the ice is not strong, your compression actually melts the ice a little bit, like the compression of your weight. And so you're like ice skating. That's why like it's so easy to slip when it's just like it's almost slushy, you know?
They call black ice. Touch what I never touched before. Seen what I never seen before. Okay, that's a very, very obscure reference for some of y'all. Speaking of unexpected, I didn't expect to wake up a few days ago and everyone was pissed at MrBeast. Because he's one of the most well-liked people on the internet. I guess I don't need to read the article. His last controversial video is he paid money so basically there's a lot of people in the world that can't see, and there's a simple surgery that will help them see, but they can't afford it. I think, and so
cataract surgery.
Yeah, so MrBeast paid for 1,000 people to have this like life-changing surgery. What's weird is his channel started in 2012. I thought he'd been around for a long time. He's the #1 YouTuber, or at least he's always on those lists.
Yeah, it depends on how you factor it in.
#1, yeah. But he's one of the most popular YouTubers, and he's definitely one of YouTube's favorite YouTubers.
Yes.
But that's also crazy because I never heard of this guy until this year. And I never seen none of his videos have ever popped up in my recommendations. So I mean, I guess I'm vaguely aware of him. Like I've vaguely heard his name, but his content I was never familiar with. And
even with the Squid Game thing, I feel like that's
no, because I never watched Squid Games either. So I don't even know what you're talking about. What's the Squid Game thing?
I mean, he essentially did a. I'm surprised you never watched Squid Game. I feel like that's right up your alley. But he did a quote unquote real life Squid Game, which at the time I'm pretty sure was one of the biggest, most expensive productions for like a YouTube.
He did a real life
game
Squid Game like for poor people.
Yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily for poor people, although that's mostly who play it. But it was like he took the events from Squid Game. So obviously, Squid Game don't
people die in that?
They do, but they do like a fake version of them dying in this. They don't actually kill people. MrBeast didn't actually kill anybody.
Pussy.
But the irony was not lost on people that Squid Game, which is this biting satire of the absurd lengths that we go to like sort of monetize poverty and the rat race and everything. So
he was doing exactly that.
He's doing exactly that. He's taking people who need money and they'll be willing to. He's showing that how willing they are to debase themselves or embarrass themselves for cash, right? And then he's monetizing people's entertainment of that.
So he's making money. So that's wild. He's making money from videos of him using his money to help poor people. That's the way he sees it. Some people see it like you're saying is like, oh well, you're exploiting poor people for your own thing. But then he turns around and goes, well, yeah, but I'm using the money I get to help people. So it's like this weird cycle. But here's what it really is. Okay, this is my whole take on not him specifically, but listen, there's a fundamental part of us that doesn't like a goody two shoe. We don't trust them. We don't trust people that are goody goods because it's always suspicious because it always is. Remember when we found out Mother Teresa was a piece of shit? That was news to me. It's like because your whole life is like people will use her and Gandhi as like examples of like peaceful people. Like it was like an ironic thing to say, oh, yeah, Mother Teresa. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then she died, and then we're like, oh damn, like she. I mean, she was doing some hardcore shit to people.
Oh yeah, she was a tortured tourist,
but she was
a poverty tourist.
But she was doing it in the name of the Lord. She was saving these savages. That's how she saw it. Yeah. So that's my point. Is like I guess it depends on your perspective whether or not you think MrBeast is a good person. The other side of it is, listen, whether people want to admit it or not, he has an unfortunate face. It's like there is something about an aesthetic that affects us, right? It's like there's a such thing as a punchable face. He has a punchable face, and it's not his fault. But it's the face. He has the face of a person that you just like. If you ain't know nothing about him, you just saw their face, you'd be like, I don't like this person. Some people have.
He has a face of an assistant manager at GameStop,
exactly,
who will not allow you to like turn in your PS2 games.
So it's one of those things. And then on top of that, he also has an unfortunate voice. So when he's complaining, it sounds whiny. So so it's one of those things. So all those things are working against him. But there's no evidence that this dude is evil. From people's experience, it's like people like this are usually up to no good, or they got ulterior motives on the fair. That's just how people are suspicious of the guy, because we're naturally suspicious of goody two shoes. We don't, we pick the people we don't trust people that don't have a flaw that we can see.
Right.
It's like.
I mean, I think it also comes back to. The criticism from my perspective, needs to be about the system that leads to a situation where there's 1,000 people who could have this 10-minute
and we can't
surgery, and they have to go on like a YouTube game show to get it. We can't just like give that to people so that they can see and like their lives are better. And Mr. Beast's response to the criticism is like, look, I made money off of it, but now there's 1,000 people who can see who couldn't see before. Isn't that a good thing? And I would say, yeah, that's absolutely a good thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
But there is no institutional critique built into Mr. Beast's content. And Mr. Beast he's just the most visible example of a thing that is endemic to the internet.
I get what you're saying. It's like he's making entertainment out of helping these people, but never criticizing the system that led to the fact that these people even need his help.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's like so yeah, I get what you're saying, which I guess that's what makes it exploitation to some people, right? It's like, yeah, you're acting like you give a fuck about these people seeing. You know what I mean? But
and maybe he does on a personal level.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what's in his heart.
Does. But you know.
Well, do you remember like a couple of years ago, it was like a real big trend on like TikTok and Instagram and stuff where these like wannabe influencers would just film themselves like walking up to homeless people and giving them like $1,000.
Right, or a sandwich.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And it's like, and yeah, it's good that, you know, you give a sandwich to a hungry person or you give money to somebody who doesn't have a safe place to stay for the night. Those are good things. But the idea that you would do it as part of clout chasing, I think, is what comes off as greasy to people.
But also, it's like, but imagine being the 1,001st person to walk. Like they put out a cast and go like, everybody that can't see, like come, you know, show up here. You know, it's weird. It's weird to because I don't know how much it costs to help those 1,000 people.
I think it's $1,000.
$1,000 a person. So that's $1 million.
So he spent $1 million. I think he also donated about $100,000 to the clinic that did the like they paid for the surgeries, and I think they also on top of that donated like $100,000. He also donated as prizes. I think one person won like a Tesla. Somebody else got $10,000 cash.
Yeah, but I'm like, but look, my nigga, Mr. Beast, is like, but like, fuck, I don't want to like you. But my point is, the $100,000 that Tesla cost, you could have helped the extra people that can't see.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? It's like because $1,000 is a nice perfect round number. I mean, 1,000 people is a nice perfect round number. But I guarantee you there were like more people. I don't know. It just.
But that wouldn't have been as entertaining. To people.
Yeah, it is. It's easy to watch another motherfucker like pocket like well, if I had their money, this is what I would have done. You know, I don't want to fall into that, but I understand. This is the point I'm trying to make. I understand why people don't trust Mr. Beast. I do, but it's not fair to judge the man without having any like concrete proof that he's because you know it's so weird. I don't know if you remember, but the same thing happened to like what's the guy's name to like the social Sean King.
Oh yeah.
The same thing happened to that guy. Was like somebody was just like suspicious of him, and then that shit just took a whole life of its own, and now there's a whole swath of the internet that don't trust him. And as far as I know, there's no evidence that he's done anything fucked up except like help families sue, you know, police departments and shit like that. But it's like one person made up one negative rumor and it just took the fuck off. And that's what's happening to this guy. It's like this, we're literally reading an article, people call him the Antichrist. You know, like people act like they and now here's the other thing. He if he wasn't squeaky clean before, he got to be squeaky clean now because people are waiting for one little thing. One little slip up. You can't get caught with no hoes. You know what I'm saying? You got to clear your internet search history. You know what I mean? You can't be at the wrong establishment. Like people, you know what I'm saying? I think he needs to like reveal a flaw. He needs to be like, he need to go to rehab or something, you know. All right, guys, you got me. I got a crippling crack addiction or something like that. And people will lay off. Because that's the thing. No one's perfect. So when you come off as a goody two shoes with no negative, people know that you're hiding something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They know
that's why Martha Stewart getting caught for insider trading was the best thing that ever happened to her.
It's the best thing that ever happened to Martha Stewart.
I thought it made me think she was so much cooler.
Well, probably that, and then her friendship with Snoop, because that allowed her to be friends with Snoop publicly. You know, and now
also she took her lumps. She went to jail. She just stayed quiet that entire time. Came out, and her career is better now than it ever was.
Yeah, and also the fact that like she went to prison for something that everybody else was like, that's bullshit.
Yeah. Right?
Because it's like, yeah, insider trading's wrong, but it also is like, I can't act like I don't know some shit that I know.
Right. And also what she did technically wasn't insider trading. It's like a different law. I can't recall off the top of my head exactly
that was
what
some
it was.
prosecutor trying to make their career off of her or something, right? Yeah, I hate the legal system so much.
Fucked up, man.
It's just so.
Although that touches on an email that we got recently.
Oh yeah, let me hear it. It's Displate time, baby. Get your own artwork printed on a one-of-a-kind metal poster that only takes 20 seconds to install. They also have millions of designs available and officially licensed designs from Star Wars, Netflix, Call of Duty, and more. Your poster comes with a magnetic sticker, so you just pop it on the wall and hang your poster. No power tools, no wall damage. Easily switch out new posters in seconds. Click the link in our description to see some of my favorites and get your ready-to-hang piece of art. Save 22% if you buy 1 or 2 and get 33% off when you buy 3 or more. The discount will be automatically applied to your cart when you click the link. Use code BS when you visit Displate.com to get the discount. That's Displate.com, code BS, or click the link in the show notes. Okay, guys, so this is a little sample that they sent me, and it comes in a box like this. Ooh. Shiny metal. And I like that. I do like the fact that it's shiny metal. And as you can see on the back here, it comes with 2 stickers that are also magnets. So you just put these anywhere on the wall. You put the magnet right there. Bam, it sticks to the wall. It's just like that. Yeah, you can swap them out whenever you want. You can upload custom art. They already have like hundreds of regular, like pre-made stuff, like cool shit. But you can upload. Yeah, what did I say? Hundreds? Yeah, there's thousands. Yeah,
millions.
And there's different sizes and so on and so forth. And this is honestly how I'm decorating my whole house, because it just makes it so much easier because I'm renting this house and I can't put holes in the wall, and it's just a pain in the ass trying to get stuff framed and all this, and it just eliminates all of that. You put it up, it doesn't look like, you don't look like a college kid decorating their dorm room because you're taping a poster to the wall and all like that. It's metal, it's clean. It takes a lot of the hassle out of having plain walls. I have one on the way that has my picture from the Netflix thing. I have one on my way that has the podcast logo on it. Those sorts of things. Displate.com, offer code BS. Yeah, Julio. Hey, Brian and Rob, I think in the last episode, Rob mentioned his catalytic converter got stolen. It is a big problem nowadays, but my beef is with Rob's comment. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Some Rob hate. I love this. He said he wasn't angry and that he doesn't have any hate on his heart for the person who stole it. And he would have given money so he doesn't go through the hassle, and he thinks about how desperate this person is to steal a catalytic converter. Okay, yeah, so this guy's referring to on the previous episode, Rob Rob's catalytic converter was stolen, and Rob made a comment to the effect of like, I don't even hate the guy. You know, I hate the conditions that led to him needing to steal a catalytic converter. In fact, I'd rather him just knock on my door and me giving him money so he didn't steal my catalytic, because that's costing me more,
right,
more anguish than if he had I would rather just give him money, you know, than have to wait for my shit to get replaced. I get that.
Right.
So anyway, moving on. This guy says, this comment is my issue. This is the reason people are committing crimes without consequences. Going to a Nordstrom and smash and grab merchandise, or a Walgreens or any store, can we stop with the excuses and feeling bad for these thieves? I'm tired of all the excuses that housing is expensive, the rich get richer, lack of good paying wages, and so on. Well, those are reasons.
Right.
It makes me so fucking angry hearing people excusing criminal behavior, and it is a societal issue that translates into our justice system. The fact that stealing $450 was a misdemeanor years back, and it was increased to $950 to reflect inflation, is comical and sad to me. It's okay to be pissed if someone steals your property. I grew up in Latin America and came to the United States and had to learn the language, got my BS degree, accounting, so blah, 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 blah. I have compassion for the less fortunate, but committing crimes and finding excuses to justify criminal behavior because it's ridiculous. I am not singling out Rob, just pointing out that many people think and feel the way Rob does. Yeah, Rob's a fucking bleeding heart liberal.
Don't you ever fucking call me.
I'm
a
sorry.
liberal,
Rob is a fundamentalist leftist. That's more accurate, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know
just
what I
call
mean?
me a leftist.
Yeah, he's a liberal with a pistol. He's a
Yeah.
no,
Liberal with a pistol is kind of a funny term.
but Julio, I think you are misunderstanding what Rob was saying, and I don't want to speak for Rob, but I'm about to. He wasn't making an excuse for the criminal behavior, but just pointing out the reason for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, people can't afford shit. Like it is not. It is a fact that as housing costs rise, as poverty goes up, crime goes up because people get desperate. You know, most of these little petty crimes and robbery are committed by desperate people, right? And what we're used to is it just being people with a drug problem. Their desperation is self-inflicted, right? They're desperate for money for drugs, so they do little robberies and shit. But now
they're not. And one of the reasons that makes them so desperate is because if you have mental health issues or if you're addicted to drugs, it's very difficult to keep a job down and to pay your bills, and so you end up getting kicked out. That's the issue. And then you can't qualify for a lease, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, and then but now that problem's exacerbated by the fact that like there are people that aren't drug addicts.
Right.
That are facing eviction with their whole families and stuff like that. So it's like, yo, if I got to go up under your car and steal your catalytic converter so my kids can eat, you know, it's like that's an issue. That like it's a societal issue. It's not like one person being irresponsible.
Right.
Because I think we have this tendency. You know, it goes into like the same thing as the minimum wage debate, right? Where it's like people. You're looking at it, you're making it about you, and you're afraid that it invalidates your hard work if somebody else makes more money. You know what I mean? It's the same thing kind of like here. You're like it doesn't invalidate everything you've done to be stable, that these people are unstable. You know, it's like it's not okay that they stole his catalytic converter, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my preference would be that nobody would have stolen it. Obviously,
right. But I think it shows a lack of perspective if you look at crimes in a vacuum, like there isn't something that led to the crime, because if you don't, you know, it reminds me of what was that show? One of my favorite shows that I think they canceled still, like Mindhunter. You see that?
Oh yeah.
And it's all about like how. When these guys were going around trying to interview these serial killers, because at that time, back in the 70s, the FBI, there was no such thing as there was no such thing as a serial killer. There was no profile. The profiling wasn't even a major part of what they did. And one guy was trying to learn about these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? But everyone else was so... They had this attitude. Look, what do we need to learn about them? They just evil. You know what I mean? And this guy was like, well, but if we understand where they come from, then maybe we can prevent or predict their behavior. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, this guy, you know, his dad fucking abused him. His mom molested him. You know, and it's like, and you know, but everyone at the FBI was like, now you're around here making excuses for these serial killers. It's like, no, I'm just trying to understand them so we can prevent the problem. You know, and that's the whole reason we have, you know, serial killer profiles nowadays. That's the only reason we even catch the very, very few ones that we do catch. By the way, that's a scary little fun fact. we have not caught that many of them.
No.
You know what I mean? Like in terms of like the amount of serial killers that are predicted to be out there, we've caught very, very few of them.
Have you seen, I'm not going to be able to pull the statistics out of my ass, but one of the things that criminologists study is why are there apparently so few female serial killers? And there's a couple of different competing hypotheses over that. One of them is that there's something about men that is itself criminogenic. Like maleness is the biggest predictor of criminality, especially for violent crime.
Oh, wow.
So that's one hypothesis. The other hypothesis, or a competing hypothesis, and they could both be partially correct, is that women serial killers are just much better at it, so they don't get caught. Or they're so good at it that we don't even know that the people are victims of serial killings. You know, they're just dying from heart attacks, and it's like, no, they were poisoned with cyanide.
That's the premise. I'm writing that down. Yeah,
write that one down.
All these prolific ass serial killing hoes out here.
One thing I wanted to bring up,
but I think
sorry, go ahead.
But also, do they know why is whiteness a predictor of serial, or is that a misconception? It isn't, right? Is that an American phenomenon? Are there serial killers in Uganda and shit?
I mean, there definitely are. I think
because a part of it too is like they often, because racism might be at the root of this. Like they usually categorize probably black people that kill a bunch of people as like, oh, that's just niggas. You know, like that's gang violence. You know, that's just how they are.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't know.
I my guess would be, and this is a wild ass guess. I have no real evidence to back this up, but that's always the best guesses.
Racism?
Is that yeah, it's definitely racism, but it's also I think the form of racism that it is, you know, usually when a serial killer gets caught, it's a white male in their, you know, 30s or whatever. And they get caught because eventually just the stench of the bodies gets too bad and the neighbors call the cops for the 10th time, and finally they investigate it and they find a bunch of bodies under the floorboards, right? That's what ends up happening. And then once that guy gets, once the serial killer gets arrested and they become a celebrity, we look into their background, we find out, oh, they've been chopping up cats since they were 13 years old or whatever, and nobody ever did anything. And I think the difference is that if you are, because I do think that there's something genetic and neurobiological to serial killers.
And listen, white dudes, calm down. I know the most prolific serial killer was a black man, but that's an outlier.
Right.
Right. And also that's according to him. You know what I mean? Because he wanted credit for that. But the 99% of serial killers are like white men in their 30s. That's how they in their 30s when they get caught.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think, and so then you go back and you look at like in their teen years, they committed crimes or actions that were indicative of a propensity for serial killing, right? I think if you're a black 15-year-old who commits a crime like that, you immediately end up in the system. Whereas if you're a white guy, then the system is designed to kind of like, we're gonna, yeah, he did some stuff to animals, but we're not going to pay attention to that. Or we're going to put him in we're going to put him in treatment for a little bit, get him some therapy or whatever. As opposed to if you're black, then it's like, well, we'll either just shoot you in the street or we'll send you to jail.
Right. Especially too, where it's like you can give off those weirdo vibes as a young white kid, and it sort of look past,
You can become the next Harry Styles.
When you're a black kid, it's like, because we were talking about, I was reading something about this today, but it's that whole thing about like white discomfort. And because I've experienced this so much, I just recently had a situation like this where it was like, it's the primary weapon of the Karens of the world. He makes me uncomfortable. It's that kind of shit. Like I read, what was I reading this morning? It was something about how Talib Kweli got kicked off of a flight. And
when was that? When did that happen?
Must have happened recently. But according to him, if it's from what he posted, there was no incident. You know what I mean? Someone told a flight attendant that he was making them uncomfortable. And he claims that he didn't interact with anyone. He talked to the flight attendant, and they were like, someone's saying you're making them uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. They worked it out to his favor, and then a supervisor came back up to him and was like, yeah, you gotta get off the flight. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But that's happened to me so many times where like it's like there's no other way for them to escalate the situation because they're being a cunt. But it's always in their back pocket that they could just say that you were making them uncomfortable because they don't have to elaborate. They don't have to, like there doesn't have to be nothing has to have happened because that's the signal to all the other white people to remember the last time you were scared of a nigga. That's what's happening to me. You understand what I'm saying? So
right.
they could be dead ass in the wrong, but they get to. It's like this vague justification. They don't have to be specific. They don't have to prove anything. They just have to use that magical word. I'm just uncomfortable. I don't want any trouble. He's just making everyone uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And they don't have to address like what do you mean, bitch? Why are you uncomfortable? Is it because niggas make you uncomfortable, or did I do something to you? Or you're not used to people telling you about yourself.
Existing while black.
Yeah, so it's one of those weird situations.
One thing I wanted to highlight in this, because in this email, is Julio says, this comment is my issue. This is the reason, meaning in his mind justifying, I wouldn't say I was justifying the crime, but I was trying to unpack the reasons why the crime occurred, right? Or why crimes in general go up or down. Because any individual crime could occur for a million different reasons. Maybe that person's desperate. Maybe that person's a piece of shit. Maybe they hate me individually. I have no fucking clue. No, you never know why an individual crime occurs, but we can scientifically study why crime goes up and down, why certain crimes are more or less prevalent in certain societies or in certain eras, etc. Right? This is a scientific question. Why is crime going up? And so he says, this is the reason people are committing crimes without consequences. I disagree with that. I disagree with that for two reasons. Number one, there are consequences to stealing catalytic converters if you get caught. That's a felony over here.
Right.
If the person who stole my catalytic converter got caught stealing that catalytic converter, they could get up to 3 years for that. Those are serious consequences. Secondly, all of the data shows that increasing the severity of the consequences does not deter crime. Consequences do deter crime. The fact that something is a crime does prevent people from committing that act. But the thing that determines whether or not they commit that act is if they think they're going to get caught. So increasing for instance, the penalty for stealing a catalytic converter from 3 years to 10 years won't have a significant effect on how many catalytic converters are stolen. But if they start clearing these cases of catalytic converter thefts, that would deter the crime, because then there would be this fear that there are consequences for it. The reason why they stole the catalytic converter, or one of the reasons, a contributing factor to it, is that they really had no reason to believe that they would be caught, right? Because the police don't investigate these crimes. I filed a police report because I had to for insurance purposes, obviously, right? So the cop comes out and they take your information. When did it happen? Blah, 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 blah. They look around. Any cameras? Nope. Yeah. Okay, well, here's the number. So see you around later.
It's the same reason why people. It's the same sort of thing of like how you couldn't, like remember during COVID lockdown, how like at least how like in LA being the city that was like the loudest about everyone following the rules, but then you find out like there's all these secret parties and shit going on, and it's like that. It's like, what are the chances that someone's gonna catch me? Right, like, right. Okay, maybe that was a shitty analogy to start with, but I think what you're trying to say is like, as the consequences, the level of the consequences are less important as the chance that those consequences will ever come into play, right? Yes. It's like the category of people that would commit that crime it shifts with the chances of them getting caught doing the crime, the chances of anyone giving a fuck, right?
What I'm saying, it's a two-stage process. First, there are the societal preconditions that determine how desperate people are to commit crimes. Like, so for instance, I could throw it back on Julio and say, like, listen, like, the fact that you came here from Latin America, and he doesn't give us his entire story or whatever, but he came here from Latin America. I assume he was like law-abiding, and he put in the work and he paid for his tuition and he's becoming a CPA, and that's awesome. That's great. Congratulations. Like, that's great that you did that. Obviously, he has the intelligence and the work ethic and the moral code that enabled him to do that, and that's wonderful. That's a success. But what I'm saying is that there are societal preconditions that ratchet up or down the population of people who are capable of and interested in committing crime. And so that's one dial that we can twist, where we can make societal conditions better so fewer people are incentivized to commit crime. But then also the next part of that is when you investigate crimes, like do real police work and investigate crimes and visit consequences on people for committing crimes, then that like is the second stage that prevents this subcategory of people whose incentives are aligned to commit crime. It realigns their incentives, because it's like, well, no, don't do that because you'll get caught, right? There are reasons why Julio never committed these crimes. There's reasons why I never committed these crimes, and it's not just because we're better people or anything like that. There are preconditions that are then acted upon by consequences or the lack thereof. Yeah.
It's like you've never been hungry enough to steal.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so the thing is like people that are hungry enough or desperate, people that are desperate enough to steal. Like there's people out there that would be stealing anyway, right? There's thieves out there. And then there's people that, they're like as you increase the circumstances that cause people to consider stealing, then the amount of people that would steal goes up. It's just that simple. Like that's just what it is. That didn't make it simpler.
Well, and the other thing I wanted your opinion on this. One thing that I find frustrating about a lot of these conversations is people talk about crime as if crime is one thing, right? Like we just started talking about serial killers, right? But the reason why somebody becomes a serial killer, that's not the same thing as somebody who commits a property crime, right? Like somebody stole my catalytic converter in the middle of the night. The only person in danger was that person who was crawling underneath my car in the rain, right? That's not the same thing as even mugging somebody at gun or knife point, right? Much less a serial killer who is going out and committing
killing for
the
funsies.
most, killing for funsies, right, to get their jollies off or whatever. Those are so it's even bizarre that we lump all those together under the headline crime, because we also don't do it. We don't talk about other more important crimes in the same way. Like the biggest source of theft in this country is wage theft. It dwarfs all robberies.
Oh yeah. Well, he's about to find out when he gets his CPA. Depending on who the fuck gives him a job. I also wanted to address this email before we got out of here. It's sort of loosely related. This one from G. It's like the second one. He says, Brandon Brown, please do. Oh, yeah, right. He says, hey, guys, I love the podcast. You two make me laugh and think and keep me entertained while I serve in an undisclosed location overseas. I'm an Air Force member with 10 years of service. My question revolves around diversity, and in this email, I will disclose the race and gender of the individuals involved. This information is relevant to the story and is in no way meant to be discriminatory. For the record, I am a white male. Okay, so I think what these two emails have in common is the lack of perspective, right? So here we go. I recently received word that my enlisted performance report was not good enough to be selected for promotion to the grade of E7. During this rating period, I won awards at the squadron and group levels. I led a wing project. I took on multiple high-visibility additional duties, and I did my primary duty without error. In my opinion, I had a great year, and I believe I should have been considered for promotion. It's only my first year eligible for this promotion, so not making it is not that big of a deal, and all I can do is try again next year. What irks me about the situation is the individual who was selected for promotion was a black female and was trying for the second year. This female did not win any awards. She did not volunteer or go to school. She did the minimum and went home. On top of that, she had a baby during this rating period, which means she was allotted 3 months of maternity leave. Her being on maternity leave meant that everyone else in the shop had to do her work in addition to their own while she was at home. The Air Force and other businesses in our society have placed an initiative on promoting minorities. I've been in meetings where high-level Air Force officials have said, and I'm paraphrasing, we do not have enough minorities in leadership positions, and we're looking at ways to change that. To me, this female received a promotion based on her race and gender and maybe even her new family status rather than the merit of her work. I would like to know your opinion as a black male and former military member on the following question. Does our society need more diversity in positions of power, even if that means those promotions are not always going to be the most deserving individuals? Or should we be more of a meritocracy? Thought example, 100 people take a test, 50 males, 50 females, and the top 10 scorers are promoted. If the top 10 are all males, how many females should be promoted? Thanks again for all the content. Hope to hear from you soon. Okay, I know Rob has answers just bubbling up right now, but
I want to hear what you say first.
But what I will say is like, yeah, man, it's like you lack perspective. Because listen, again, my experience in the military was 20 years ago. The way they do promotions may have changed, and I know it was slightly different from branch to branch to branch. So in the Marine Corps, the way they would do it is they would, you got to score for your physical fitness test, and you got to score for your rifles test, and you got to score from your like your annual like reports on how you do your job. Right. And then you could get additional points for like turning in these courses or whatever. And anyway, so what they would do is they would say, hey, we have 3 people that need to be promoted to this next rank in your job, in your MOS. Hold on a second. God damn it. So they say we have 3 people that need to be promoted in your job, and so we're gonna take the 3 highest scores right now. That's the way they would do it. Now, outside of that, they would have what they call meritorious promotions, meaning none of that matters. You so excellent that we just gonna promote you. You know what I mean? So those things, that's how they did it back then. man, and we also always had these problems back then, right? And to give another similar thing to like Hollywood, like in the last 5 or so years, Hollywood decided to focus on diversity. They've done it incorrectly, if you ask me, but that's just mostly because it's usually white people in charge of it. Like they'll put a black face in front of it, but it's like your idea of diversity is like, we need 1 gay, 1 black, 2 Asians. It's like they're just anyway. The point is
that's tokenism.
Well, right, but it's tokenism dressed up as diversity,
right.
But the point I'm trying to make is just that. But what it did do was it still opened the door for more minorities to get like opportunities, right? And all the white guys in Hollywood all did this, where as soon as a minority got something in front of them, they were like, "See, you know what I mean? Meritocracy," and it's like you didn't give a fuck about fairness until it started feeling unfair to you. It's like, what about, okay, so yeah, 5 years ago, they got on this diversity kick, but where was your career before that?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? It's like, it's like here's the other thing. You are not privy, at least, I don't know how the Air Force runs now, but you're not privy to the reasons that you didn't get promoted or the reasons that she got promoted. I mean, like you said, it's your first year of eligibility, is her second. You don't know her accomplishments. This is a reason, it's like, I'll put it to you like this. Let me rephrase it like this. If another white guy had got this promotion instead, for the same reasons that you claim this lady did, like for some unfair reasons, you wouldn't have a problem. I mean, you would be disappointed that you didn't get promoted, but you wouldn't be looking for a reason why it's unfair. You know what I mean? A white guy in the same position,
or he might say, that's unfair, that sucks that John got the promotion instead of me, but you wouldn't attribute that unfairness
exactly
to his race
or
gender.
So that's the thing. Is like maybe it's unfair, but here's the other thing. That's what it is. White dudes. I mean, my point is, regardless of whether this person got promoted on their own merit or whether this person was promoted to fill some kind of diversity quota, regardless of those things, it's like, that's just what it is. And listen, if you're a minority, that's been your whole life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Welcome to like a little unfairness. You'll be fine. You'll survive. Like my whole life, I grew up being told, hey, listen, it's going to be black excellence versus white mediocrity. I've used that phrase over and over again on this podcast. That's what I was told. Is like, my whole growing up is like, the white dude could be pretty good. I had to be amazing. Because the thing is, you got to be so good to overcome people's bias. You know what I mean? It's like, think about how many people way back in the day, think about how many black people were great at baseball. But you had to be Jackie Robinson to get into the MLB. You couldn't just be really, really good. You couldn't just be better than most. You had to be the best motherfucker that they had ever seen at that point. It's not that extreme in most situations. If I'm a minority and I go into a traditionally white space, I have to outshine motherfuckers to the umpteenth degree. Like, it can't be all right. You know what I mean? It's up. I mean, look at stand-up comedy, for example. You can name very, very, very few mediocre black comics that's like world superstars. Like, there's very few because they all had to be to stand out, because otherwise they get relegated to like the Chitlin circuit. They're just they're allowed to be black famous. And every decade they let one nigga rise to the top, and that was it. That's what it was for a long time until recently.
That's why Red Fox is like considered such a legend, is because he's really one of the first black comedians to break out of the Chitlin circuit and start selling out casino theaters to white people, right?
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm sorry, what did you say, Rob?
I was saying that's one of the reasons why Red Fox is such a legend, is because he came up on the Chitlin circuit and was dominating on Chitlin circuit, and then he broke out into selling out theaters to white audiences, and then doing the first HBO special. You know,
I think he did the first album as well.
He might have. I think you're right about that. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out in this email, and I mean, I want to say I appreciate this email from G, because I think it's got a lot of good things to talk about in here. I do think that there are some assumptions built up into the way that he frames this situation. Now, I was never in the service. I was never in the Air Force, so I can't speak to that. One thing I can speak to from my experience, though, is going to law school, and how, you know, admissions for postgraduate degrees of all different types it's a huge issue. Diversity in acceptance rates, and diversity in acceptance committees and stuff like that. And when you apply to law school, there's a few things that you do. You have your transcripts from undergrad, obviously. You have your CV or your resume that shows your work history. You do a personal statement. Usually there's some sort of essay component for your packet, and then you have the LSAT, which is it's basically just a test. It's just a standardized test that you take, okay. And the purpose of the LSAT is to be this thought example that he brings. He says 100 people take a test, 50 males, 50 females, and the top 10 scorers are promoted. If the top 10 are all males, how many females should be promoted? The problem is that there's an underlying assumption here that these tests are capable of accurately assessing who has merit, who's going to be best at the job. So LSATs are like a super important thing for law school, same way like SAT or ACT used to be for college. But they don't really have any, I shouldn't say any, they have very little predictive ability, especially at the upper ends of the scores on it, to determine how well you're going to do in law school, how well you're going to do once you get out of law school, et cetera. So I think there's a built-in assumption that these tests are better than they really are at determining merit. I think there's also a broader issue here with a very individualistic framing of this situation, because when you are applying to law school, or when you are being hired for by business, or you're entering the service, it's not just, we just want all the smartest people, because that's not necessarily going to be the best unit. That's not necessarily going to be the best business. It's not just about intelligence. It's not just about narrow, aptitude in one narrow category. It's about creating a student body. It's about creating a cohesive unit. It's about creating a business that's going to have a diversity of skills and outlooks and experiences and history and so on, right? That makes that works better. It's not always about you, honestly. It's just not always about you. Yeah, it's not always about rewarding people for their individual excellence.
But also,
it's oftentimes,
regardless of, also another point too is like that. I don't know exactly how the Air Force does their promotions,
right?
But I'm sure that there's a score involved, and she had a higher score than yours, and I'm positive that you're not awarded extra points for being a woman or being black, right. on that score. Maybe her I forget what they call them, your fitness reports or whatever y'all call them. Maybe her supervisor could have juiced her scores. I don't know. But here's the other side. The example he gave is 100 people take a test, 50 males and 50 females. But again, that is again looking at it like it's in a vacuum and ignoring all the time where women weren't even allowed to take the test and had no part in making the test.
Right.
And all this, because it's not like things are starting off equal and now things are being measured unequally. You know what I mean? It's like things have been unequal for a long ass time. A perfect example, a perfect military example is like, it's sort of like it's not really unspoken, but it's not a secret that like the Navy is run by Filipinos.
Okay.
The United States Navy it's a large chunk of Filipinos or let me rephrase that. A large chunk of the United States Navy is Filipino. And it's something people joke about, it's something white dudes complain about. The fucking Filipinos anyway, right? And for the longest time, and that's been the case forever. The whole time I've been alive, right? Ain't never been a Filipino in charge of that motherfucker. Ain't been no Filipino admirals. You know what I mean? And you don't it's like that racism is floating there right in front of you and you don't even notice it. You know what I mean? In fact, this year was the first time there's been a black female general in the Marine Corps. And I think she might be the first black general at all. Or maybe the first black person to pick up a second star, something like that. But like ask yourself, like no one ever stopped and asked like why that is. How can it be that there's so many Filipinos in the Navy that it's something we joke about? But none of them in a real position of authority until recently. And I bet you even then someone turned around and went, fucking diversity, huh? You know what I mean? It's like what I'm trying to point out to you, G, is that like I'm not saying that you may not have been treated unfairly individually, but what I'm saying is, is it unfairness that concerns you or unfairness that affects you?
Right.
Because if you care about unfairness, you don't. Let's call a spade a spade. It's like the unfairness has been all around you, and you just ain't never noticed it until now. But so again, my answer to you is there's no way for you to know whether this person earned this above you or whether it was truly unfair. Maybe some mixture of the two.
The assumption that he's working from is that it's a meritocracy, and then now there's like this tokenism or this diversity, and that is skewing this meritocratic system that pre-existed it.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, Rob. It's never been a meritocracy.
Right.
See, the whole pull yourself up out of bootstraps and meritocracy and all that. That is stuff. Those are things that the white people that are directly responsible for the disparities. That's the myth they tell you. That's the myth they tell the well-meaning white folks so you don't have to feel bad about it. You know what I mean? It's like racism is like diluted now and it's not directing in your face now, but that's just what it is. It's never been a meritocracy. It was a meritocracy within the whites, but it was completely unfair to everybody else out in the open for a long time.
I wouldn't even say it's a meritocracy within the whites because I think it's a class-based.
There's nepotism and all of that stuff. Yeah, you're right. But what I'm saying is it's never been fair. You know what I mean? But the unfairness has just never had to rise to your attention, and now you think that the unfairness is new. It's like, but it isn't. It's just affecting you now. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. Because listen, I guarantee you, this lady, if she's made it to where if she's you're an E7, so y'all have been in for at least 6, 7, 8 years minimum apiece. And I guarantee you, this lady has experienced way more unfairness than this. Because here's the other thing. Every effort to diversify is also equally met with people going, this is fucked up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So whatever little extra boosts or points she got from whoever gave it to her, let's just assume you're correct. I guarantee you she received 10 times, like 10 times before this, people shit on her because she was a woman and because she was black.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but she just deal with it. It's probably to the point where she don't even notice it no more. You know what I mean? So
it's just the water. It's just the water that she swims in.
Yeah. It's like, bro, racism is tap water to black people. It's just, yeah, that's what it is. It's there. You know what I mean? It's regular. You know, it don't get spicy till somebody die. But outside of that, it's like we literally deal with it every day. Not every single day. You know, not every single day directly in my face. But it happens so often that like I don't even be shocked about it. You know? So, welcome to the club. You know, I don't know if that answer is satisfying, but that's what it is. Right?
Yeah.
But it was clear. What I care about is was my response clear? You know? It's like it's gonna keep being unfair shit happening though. But you'll be fine. I'm sure you're a 10-year vet, E7. Wait a minute, hold up. Damn, that's pretty motherfucking high though. What you mean? Wait, isn't E8 the highest? No, E9. Well, I got my shit from, man, like I said, it's been a long time, but wait a minute. So wait a minute. E7 was wait a minute. E4 was corporal. No. I'm so backwards. E3 was corporal. E4 was sergeant. E5 was staff sergeant. E6 was gunny sergeant. E7 was master sergeant. That's fucking high as fuck.
It says average duty time for the promotion to master sergeant E7 is 17 years. This dude is fucking zooming.
Dude is blazing. E7? Well, he's an E6 now. Well, but okay. Again.
Wait. Okay.
He's an E6 now, hoping to go to E7 in year 10.
Oh, I see. I misread it. It too.
But here's the other thing too, though.
Well, okay, but this is the first year that he is
eligible,
able to even get. That he's even eligible to get the promotion.
But here's the other thing too is, and again, it's a lot harder to get promoted in the Air Force because because E6 is where the E5. No, wait a minute. So a lot of people get stuck at E6. Some people will be at E6 for 20 years till they retire.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And in the Air Force, it's even harder because no one gets out because it's such a cushy, thing, right? So it's a milestone. But at the same time, E8 is as high as you can go. You know what I mean? So.
Okay.
Obviously there's like other billets and I might be a little, it's been a long time since I had to know this, but it's pretty impressive that in 10 years you're already at E6. Because I don't know what that rank is in the Air Force, but in the Marine Corps it's a gunnery sergeant. And people used to always say, gunny under 20. You know what I mean? Like, I gunny under 20, I'm good, right? So it looks like this motherfucker has hit every promotion. Bang, 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 bang. Yeah, you'll be fine.
You'll probably get it next year, dude.
Yeah,
she got it on her second year. You'll probably get it on your second year.
Probably not, though.
Probably not.
It might not be available next year. But
right, okay. I don't know. I don't know anything about how promotions work in the Air Force.
Yeah, and neither do I, honestly, because they change it. They change it so much how they promote it, how they decide the scores, and without that information. It makes it, but that information isn't relevant to answering this question,
Yeah.
But it is impressive that 10 years in you're E6 to me, anyway. Unless something has fundamentally changed, it's real hard to get promoted in the Air Force because, like I said, the Air Force doesn't need people as much as all the other branches do. Yeah. So that's fairly impressive, which means that she's fairly impressive. I mean, unless you don't think so, unless she's a complete piece of shit and somehow she's an E7. In the same amount of time, that's crazy. Both of you.
One of the things I pulled up because I don't know anything about this is the head of diversity initiative or whatever for the military under Biden, and the argument that he was making is just like one of the reasons why we do this. It's not people think of it as like a merit-based thing, and it is merit. Like they don't promote people who don't deserve it, right? That's the difference. They don't promote people who don't deserve it, but there are more than enough people
they try
who are
not to.
qualified. Yeah, they don't intentionally promote somebody who doesn't deserve it.
Right.
But generally, they're promoting from a pool of people that outnumbers. There are more people qualified for that promotion than promotions there are to give out.
Right.
So it can't simply be merit-based because you can't, all these people are check pluses, A pluses, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? So then you look at what does the institution need from this promotion? That's who you select. So you select somebody that is going to aid like retention, for instance. So like he brings up the fact that she had a baby. It's like, well, we don't want to punish people for having children. We already have an issue with replacement rates in this country.
Yeah, that was a
right?
weird. That was a weird point for you to make. This bitch got pregnant and went on maternity. It was like, what is? I mean, I get it. I get it too. Because I know people that got pregnant so they didn't have to get deployed. You know what I mean? Like we found out, hey, we getting deployed next month, and then they pregnant in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Yeah, like some people do that, but again, this is the Air Force, so. I mean, when you say like people at work had to pick up the slack, I'm like, yeah, that's.
They had to drink all her coffee.
Right? Like, what slack are you? Because he didn't go into detail about what it is he does exactly.
Yeah.
But I hope that kind of sort of answers your question. Let's wrap that up.
But thank you for the email, G.
Yeah, appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions, comments, complaints, concerns, you can email us at bswithbriansimpson@gmail.com. Don't forget to go to my website, briansimpsoncomedy.com, and buy tickets. I'm coming to Vermont this weekend. I'm going to be in Denver with Ari Shafir. I'm going to be in Seattle the following weekend, the 24th and 25th. I'm be in Colorado Springs March 3rd and March 4th. So those tickets are on my website. Come check it out. Don't forget to check out, what is the podcast with Josh Potter?
Josh Potter
Show?
Every week, Tuesdays, and every Monday night is Apocalypse Soon with Eddie Pepitone and Kevin Tinkin.
Yeah, and we're at
And then Josh, we got comedyfrequency.com.
Comedy Frequency Studios. comedyfrequency.com. I think that's it. Wait a minute. I feel like we're missing some big thing. Tyree Nichols, we didn't talk about that.
I didn't know if we were going to talk about that because, I mean, what else? Well, we'll talk about it in the next episode.
What is there to say, right?
What is there to say? Actually, I got some shit to say about it.
Okay, yeah. Well, okay, we'll do it next episode. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning in, guys.